Deal structure. Specifically, how's the money distribution? Where's do the leads flow? Who owns what in terms of assets, as well as some additional considerations. That's the focus of this video here. Because it's important before you make any deal to know what the deal can look like and what your options are. So when it comes to money distribution, which is going to be the primary focus of this video, the standard deals that you'll make are typically 50-50. This is kind of cool because even if, say, you're doing 10 times what they're doing in terms of actual value, not time outlay, but just actual value, it's still easier to make the deal work if you just make it 50-50. Because even if somebody gets 1 penny more than somebody else, you can potentially induce the ego issue. And then it's a matter of like, oh my God, we're going to lose the deal and nobody's going to make anything. It's also the easiest to draw up. You can process this on a handshake, and when you're first starting, you might not get fancy. At the end of the day, to create any type of agreement, you can do a full-blown contract, which is usually complicated in multiple pages. You can do a letter of agreement or a letter of understanding, where it's basically a simple plain language document that spells things out in plain language, so you don't necessarily need to get lawyers involved for that. And then you could just do a verbal agreement. Now, a lot of people either over-rely on verbal agreements or they under-rely on them. If you over-rely on that, I guarantee you it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will get screwed. You will get screwed. But is it worth the chance? Is it worth it? Because it does make deals close much faster by not putting those things in place. Now, people who over-rely on it, who have to have every dot of every I and every cross of every T, they seem to never get deals either because they slow every dang deal down and they make it very impossible. When you're starting out and there's not a lot of money online, a handshake, a wink, a nod, and a move forward might just be the thing for you. As you get bigger and bigger deals and get better and better at this and become very unconsciously competent at performing these types of offers, then you're going to want to get more sophisticated in terms of how you actually put contracts and or letters of agreement in place. But when you're first starting, a spit and a handshake is pretty much all you need to do to get going here. You can also break it down something like this: 0 to you, 100 to them. And you say, Jason, why on earth would I ever make a deal like that? Well, in terms of money, that's just one aspect. There's also lead flow. If people are buying stuff, these are customers who can be added to an email list. So there are very often instances where you forgo any monetary payment up front because you want the list instead. Now, here's the challenge with that. If you're not in the forefront, meaning you're not the actual person that's interviewing them on record to where they know you're part of it, then the leads that you get, they'd be like, who's this person hitting me up now and mailing me and bombarding me potentially with offers and other types of things if I don't know who that person is and you don't have a relationship with them. But if you can get yourself in the foreground and get the lead and get your likeness associated to that lead, it might be easier to close a deal, and you probably will end up making more money by giving them a majority, if not all of the profits. It doesn't have to be 100% them, but it can be more them than you, right? Awesome. Go for it if you believe that's going to be financially within your benefit. You can also do a kind of a tiered deal where you get the leads and they get the leads. It's cooperative, but they get more of a percentage than you. And, of course, you can give them more of a percentage up front if you think that is the only way to get the deal closed. And if there is no other way to make the deal other than giving them more than you take, and that's fine when you're beginning because anything's better than nothing, but after a while, aim for it to be where you're more valuable than they are. And that might not reflect directly on a money compensation scale, but on an actual scale over time. And you are, if you really get this marketing stuff on how to present information correctly and market it, you're going to be super duper valuable to anybody that you come in contact with. Lastly, you can consider doing royalties. So a royalty deal can work like this, and we've done many of them. I will take on the marketing of this product, and I will help and facilitate the creation and content of this product. Obviously, you get compensated because you have the knowledge, but here's the deal. I want to take a royalty. So X percentage of the gross or the net that comes in comes to me. So what does that mean? That might mean that the deal is this. You could say, listen, I will take 25% of all the revenue that comes in up until $100,000. That's a royalty cap. So that would mean that my deal would make me at most, if everything went right, $25,000. And then anything and everything after that is theirs to keep. You might say, Jason, why would you ever make a deal where you're capping your own royalties? Well, you don't want to get into a marriage with most of these people where every time they make $1, they have to pay you $1. You just don't want to do that. And very often it makes deals very good. So what you do is you work backwards. You say, typically, how much, if everything goes right, can this deal make? Okay, let's put that as a cap, because then it's very attractive to the individual that you're making the deal with. You say, listen, you're going to pay me a little bit up front, but then you're going to have something that you can leverage over and over and over again. So that's a cap. In perpetuity means every time that they make money, you make money related to this product. And you can even after a while get an advance. So a way you can structure an advance is like this. You say, listen, it's going to require many assets and many resources for me to get started up front with this. So therefore, my first $5,000 in royalty, I would like to have them up front, and then anything after $5,000 that's due to my royalty, then you pay me. So you pay me my first $5,000 in royalties in advance of me actually accruing them, but you don't pay me again until I surpass that $5,000 in royalty. And then you would pay me like you would normally pay me in royalties. You will not get that deal up front, because you don't have any leverage to get a deal like that. But after a while, if you become very valuable, you should absolutely structure deals like that for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is nobody likes to work for free. So you can start taking action and effort, and it's good for your clients if you take it out of actually having money in your pocket versus a hope and a dream, right? Reason number 2 is it separates the players from the pretenders. There's a lot of people who posture and act like they have some very valuable thing that you can leverage and utilize, but if they can't even afford to come up with a couple $1,000s or $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever your advancement is, well, then you know exactly kind of the quality of the person that you're working with. They're not exactly resourceful in their own right, so it is a consideration to screen customers as well. But just realize this, every deal can be structured differently. There is no magical process. We always structure the deal to where it's fair to both parties, including us, by the way, and makes the deal close with the highest degree of probability. So if we creatively have to negotiate things beyond money to make a deal work and still be fair to us, then we make those considerations. If we want to go back and forth and propose multiple options of working together, option 1 is this, option 2, option 3 is that, and we feel like that's going to close the deal, great. I could sit here all day in the laboratory and give you advice and insight and consideration, but the reality is you'll learn more by going out there and getting the experience. So start with something very simple, a deal you can easily explain that they can easily wrap their head around, and then move forward from there, and then do the next one and get a little bit more creative, and eventually you'll get really good at this. But the beautiful thing is you don't have to be really good when you're starting out. Just close the deal and make money, and then we'll figure out the rest later, okay?